My name is Keith Garrison. I'm the Senior Alternative Assets Manager for Texas Christian University. It's about a $1.6 billion endowment, and we have a significant commitment to alternatives, and that includes real estate. Over the last several years, we've sort of moved from investing in the just generalist real estate managers and have attempted to find strategies that are relying upon certain demographic factors we find compelling in the United States primarily. The first thing we did several years ago was seek to find an experienced manager pursuing a strategy in student housing, and found that manager, felt that the metrics supporting demand for particularly public universities in student housing were compelling enough to invest, and that manager successfully pursued that strategy. The universities, particularly public universities, have experienced just an exponential increase in demand from students both in California and Texas, throughout the nation, and we tapped into that demand. The manager pursued a strategy, again, targeting primarily public universities and not private. Working at a university that's a private university, I know that TCU is very jealous of its campus and tries to protect its periphery by buying up assets and land to kind of prevent a lot of competitive housing, because we ask that the freshmen and sophomores reside on campus. So we pursued the strategy in student housing. It turned out to be very successful. We don't do that any longer. Not because we don't think there's still a demand for that type of investment. It just has become much more populated with funds and managers that are pursuing that strategy now. So we moved from that and then stepped back and said, okay, where else do we see a dynamic that we feel supports investment? And so we started looking at the aging boomer population. And the information that I've read from AARP says that at least 10,000 individuals in the U.S. are turning 65 every day. And that's supposed to continue into 2030 at least, or into the 30s. And so we said, okay, that's a dynamic we can tap into, so where can we invest? And chose two places. First, it was independent senior living. Found a manager who had a relationship with a operator that pursued high quality, high density independent senior living, and have been doing that now for about 4 or 5 years through a couple of funds, and that has turned out to be very successful. It's private pay, so we don't have to worry about government reimbursement, and just the demand is increasing for that type of living alternative for seniors. And so we are very pleased with the success we've had thus far on that. And then another place we saw the aging demographic that was really driving demand was in medical office. Two things really drive that, both the aging of the population, the need for medical care, and then hospitals themselves and doctors are facing increased costs from an operating standpoint, and also pressure both from an insurance and a governmental regulation standpoint as well. So felt like medical office would be another place that we could tap into, and thus far it has been a very successful strategy for us as well. And the final strategy that we're looking at, have not invested in yet, that I think has a lot of demographic support as well, is multifamily for workforce housing. As most people are aware, it's not something that's a new strategy that we've come up with. Lots of people are pursuing this now, and there's just a tremendous demand for people that work in government, law enforcement, medical, EMTs, people that are vital to the success and the sustainment of a city or a community. They have a hard time finding a place to live in some of these places like San Francisco or outside of New York, or even in Dallas-Fort Worth, that are affordable for them. And so they've had to live much further out in the suburbs and commute back and forth. And so I think it's a very good strategy that we're interested in looking at, because there are managers that today have the ability to go in and find pieces of property that are well located, more centrally located in some of these areas, and repurpose them for these families that provide a vital service to us, but have a hard time being able to afford, again, living, in downtown locations where the price and the rents can sometimes price them out of the marketplace. So that's another strategy we're looking at today as well, that we feel has good support from a demographic perspective in the U.S. That's what we're doing at TCU. Again, we're a big fan of real estate. We feel particularly in the environment we're in today, everyone for the last 2 or 3 years has been calling for the recession next year, and I guess that's probably what the attitude is today, that we've got to be having one soon because we're in the second longest period of sustained growth since the 90s. And so from our perspective, real estate, real assets afford a mitigated downside, much less volatility than you would be exposed to in some other strategies. And so again, we're a big fan of real assets and real estate.